So now we have up John and Craig from Esri. They're going to talk about the OSM editing they put in ArcGIS 10, and I don't know, any other.
Yeah, I'm going to give a short presentation on sort of how I got introduced to OSM and sort of, I'm the FEMA account manager and work a lot in the crisis management space, and I have this, try not to be a commercial for Esri, but have this slide up. It's about, we're about supporting our users, and I've heard from hundreds of our users that we need to start supporting OSM, not only in a visualization mechanism, but in an editing space. So a lot of those emails have been forwarded on to our development team, and we now have a small staff of people that are looking into ArcGIS tools for OSM. So, GIS is about layers of information, modeling the world, and during a crisis this becomes very important. Tools like OSM have base maps that are fed in on top of rasters, and then you have points and locations, and now with mobile capability you have a pretty good understanding of what's going on the ground. So you have all these different feeds coming in. You have traffic feeds, ozone low, different sensors that are out there. Now people are tweeting, and that's going on maps. So you have sensors that are giving us a really good picture of what's taking place outside of authoritative answers, but into what crowdsourcing is what we're focused on. So let's see here. So this geospatial technologies and things like OSM are changing everything that we do and how we communicate, how we reason, how we collaborate. And I think during Haiti you saw sort of the power of geospatial technologies and really getting in there to save lives. So we've been supporting emergency management for 30 plus years at Esri, and have everything from doing the mitigation tools and production for hardcore mapping for floodplains to building common operational pictures. We've supported multiple emergencies. Our president will come in and say just send bodies and send software and stand up technical support staff and 24/7 and essentially send out whatever they need for emergency response. So we also have 21,000 plus users of ArcGIS tools for emergency management globally. The big key is to having these people using the tools every day before the event. So these are sort of donations that we made, $30+ million, but it's been after the event, which doesn't always bode well. So we're working, like we have a conservation GIS program, we're working on building a crisis mapping program to get in the hands of nonprofits and NGOs the software before an event so they can get trained, be able to start using things like the OSM tools so they're not showing up on the ground and having to learn new tools, because they typically won't learn new tools during an event. So this web portal is sort of where you can go get software, data, hardware. We have hardware vendors that, plotters and stuff will get sent out. So you just search on the Esri disaster web portal and you can get access to that. So it's essentially GIS has been changing over the last few years. It's not desktop users. It's a community of users that are engaging over the web, and you have the crowdsourcing and open data sharing policies that have things like data.gov, which isn't perfect, but it's a step in the right direction that government's starting to release data and allow people to build tools on top of that. So these GIS applications are the network for collaboration between academia and citizens and business, and they're all sharing in geospatial platforms. New applications of crowdsourcing. You have citizens out there collecting bird sightings, and there's trash in the overflowed at this bathroom, and it's all coming on a map, and so this is what I'm saying, that people are using these tools before an event. They know it's a day-to-day thing, and then when something does happen, they can pick up these tools pretty quickly and help save lives. So the crowdsourcing is something that Jack Dangerman's been really trying to figure out how to build into the traditional GIS system, and we're starting to see some of our users build these these tools, and I think OpenStreetMap is probably the best example of how this can be done. In emergency response, that OpenStreetMap in Haiti was the shining example of how to get data in a place there was no data. You had people from all over the world building the database for Port-au-Prince and the surrounding communities and allowing the first responders to have access to where they're going in a matter of days, which was amazing. So this web-centric platform that we're talking about, we've released something called ArcGIS.com. That's where we have the OpenStreetMap base layers sort of fed to our users, so that you can click at the top of the plus button at the top of your ArcGIS session and just feed in OpenStreetMap layers to your desktop environment. There are many other base maps here as well, free imagery, free all kinds of stuff. So that what we said is good maps start with great base maps, and I think a couple years ago you spent most of your time in a GIS project trying to get your base map looking pretty. That's now pretty much done for you. So I'll stop the slides and get into actually show you the tool.
Thanks, John. Well, I'm glad you guys have the lights dimmed up here, because usually I start with blinding the audience with the glare off my forehead. So it's usually never a good way to start a presentation. So I'm just going to, what I want to do today is kind of more of from a technical perspective, just show you this tool that the folks at my office have developed and how it works. So I guess I'm just curious, by show of hands, like how many people use the ArcGIS desktop products where this thing works? Okay, so about maybe half the room. Great. So this is the gentleman who led the development team in our Redlands office, Martin Hugweg. His blog here announcing that we released this editor right before our user conference about a month or so ago, give or take. And the extension to ArcGIS Desktop is actually available on CodePlex, and it's a free extension to ArcGIS Desktop. It is open source and it's up there, so anyone can grab it and add to it and make changes to it. If you, the URL to it is actually up here. It's a little different, but it'll redirect you if you go to esri.com/osm-editor, and you'll be able to get there and download it. And it's a really small download, light footprint, next finish kind of install. So it's very simple. And the whole idea behind it is for people who are familiar with our software and want to contribute to OSM using the tools that they're accustomed to using and are comfortable with using, to be able to do that. So it's really just supposed to be another mechanism like a potlatch editor or a JOSM editor for people to contribute to OSM and be able to give back in and use that data. So what I want to do is just kind of step you through an example of how to use the tools in there and how it goes. And I'm actually going to start by, I grabbed some imagery from my home state. I'm from New York. It was great to hear the other gentleman from upstate New York. It's good to see that. So I'm going to grab some imagery from New York, which has a great orthoimagery program. I'm not a lawyer, but from everything I could read on here, there's no restrictive uses on, building data off it is actually listed as one of the things to do with it. So this was a great place for me to start, and I'm actually going to go to my little hometown of Norwich, New York, so I can back up some of the research that the gentleman did earlier. Say, yeah, local knowledge is one of the reasons to build data and where people build data, because it was totally where I gravitated to, is what I knew and where I had been. So what I have here is ArcGIS Desktop, and for those of you familiar with it, this tool will work with all the license levels. So if you have any license level, it's good to go. And it works with our toolbox, and really it's just another toolbox. So I make mention of that because for me, when I was asked to get up to speed on this and use it, it actually tripped me up. I was looking for where this thing was. I installed the extension and I was wondering where it was. So it's a toolbox, and you need to just simply add that in. And by default, it's under the installation directory here. I'm using Windows 7, so it's this C program files directory. I'm going to add this guy in, and in here you'll see a handful of tools that we can work with. And the first thing we want to do is go ahead and download some data. So what this is going to do is go out to the OpenStreetMap site and download some data for us. And I'm going to give this a whirl live here. Hopefully everything will go smoothly. I had a good connection, so that was great. So what I'm going to do is just specify the extent to which I want to download and where I want to put this data. And so for this presentation, I just have a geodatabase that I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. So I'm going to throw that in this geodatabase. And what it does is it's going to create 3 feature classes for me, which is basically just my points, lines, and polygons. So sort of similar to nodes and ways. So the download time here is usually pretty quick. It obviously depends on the extent of the area you're downloading. Usually I haven't had it take more than a handful of seconds. There is a maximum download, and I'm relatively new to OSM, so maybe some folks could tell me this, but I know it had a limitation of 50,000 nodes, so I'm not sure if that's on our end or the OSM end, but so I've only ran into that once. I was really trying to download a huge chunk of data. So I've downloaded this data now, and automatically it's put here in my map, and I can begin editing, but obviously it's not too visually attractive. I don't really see what's happening there. Where are my amenities, all my different tags that are associated with these different features. So in that same toolbox, there's a OSM feature symbolizer tool, which I can run, and essentially what this is going to do is just take the data and symbolize it to be a little bit more user-friendly, so we can see the common data types that are in here. So this is going to run and just go ahead and symbolize my data, and hopefully some things will look a little bit more familiar to us. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to turn off a couple of layers. So you can see here's all my data. It's right in here, and now I have the ability to go ahead and just start editing right within my ArcMap environment. So I'm going to start an edit session, and I have a couple things bookmarked here that I'm going to go ahead and edit. So the first thing here is just a little playground, and the way I begin to get this sort of onto a playground is over here on the right hand side. I have all these feature templates, and it kind of caught my eye when during Steve's presentation was showing maybe the next generation of the potlatch editor had some of those really common tags associated with features, and that's a little bit similar to what's happening here with these what are called feature templates. So if I type in playground here, I should be able to do a quick search, and hopefully there's my playgrounds. And what I can do is just grab this playground polygon, and I can just start digitizing my playground. So I'm real familiar with this area. As I mentioned, I grew up here, so I know this. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to go ahead and start digitizing my playground. And what's great for someone like myself who's familiar with this environment, I have all these tools that I know very well. Tools that allow me to do some advanced things like create true curves here, which is a little tricky to see here, but hopefully you'll see it after I drop the notes. I can create a true curve and do some of those other things. And when I'm finished with that, I can then attribute this with certain tags and values that might be in there. So we have some things by default that would be commonly associated with these features. So in this case, this already has the leisure tag, and it has that playground value associated with it because I was creating right on that type of feature. So I could put in the name here, and I know that this is, let's put caps lock on, Weiler Park Playground. Spent a few afternoons there as a little guy. So I can do that, and if I wanted, I have the ability to add additional tags in here. So as you know, in our editing environment, we're a little limited to a very sort of structured data model of attribute fields and values. Well, we've been able to build a bit more fluid data model here where we can put new tags in here. There's a list of some of the most common tags in here, or if you desired, you could type in your own tag and the value associated with that. So that's pretty nice. So I'm going to cruise over to downtown Norwich, New York, real small town if you've ever heard. This was a big excitement as I was home a week or so ago because there's a new Denny's in town. So the line went around the block for the folks who wanted to get the free Grand Slam for a week, for a year. So I've got to get that on here. So my create features, I just search for a restaurant again, so I can grab that. I know my restaurant is right here. So I digitize that. Again, some of my common tags are already filled out for me, and I can begin to type some other ones in here. So this is Denny's, and we're off to the races. So you begin to see how it's very similar, I think, to some other editing environments. Again, just common to the ArcGIS desktop environment. So just to hop over to another feature here real quick and show you how this works. Again, now I decided to type. We'll do a cemetery here. I've got a big cemetery, so I search for that, and I can begin digitizing this cemetery here using my tools that I'm used to. So we'll just rough this in here very quickly. Oop, I have my snapping turned on here. So that's nice. It is one thing, although I made a quick mistake here, is that snapping to my road center lines. There is a snapping environment, so if you want to maintain topology between features where appropriate and that sort of thing, you can do that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this sketch and give this another shot. Let me turn my snapping off here real quick. Bear with me for a moment. So we'll turn that off. We'll give this another quick shot. So this goes pretty quick, and for me, again, for someone who's very familiar with this and was unfamiliar with the other editors, this worked out. This worked out very well for me to be able to use this and make changes in this manner. So this is kind of nice to me. So again, here's some of those true curve tools.
What does that mean in OSM?
That's a great question. I haven't. I think what happens is it actually will break the space between the vertices of the arc into a number of vertices. It's a great question. I haven't checked it, but I did one like a week ago for like a forested area, and it went up without any problems and no trouble. So it was nice to sort of be able to use those tools. But that's a great question, and I honestly would have to research it a little bit to find out.
If
Yeah.
you don't mind,
Not at all.
do you know where you did that one in particular? One of the things that I'm interested in is the density of the vertices on the line segments. We've had some problems where they just chipped in way too many nodes in a way.
Sure. So in this case, like each time I left clicked, it would have dropped. That would be one node. So in this instance, there'd be about 10 nodes. The question that I can't answer for sure at the moment would be what happens to that that true curve when it goes up. So that might be there, but
So can you show us? You just made a commit, right? Just a few minutes ago.
yeah, I haven't uploaded it
Oh, you
yet.
haven't uploaded it.
Yep.
Because once you do, right, you can show us the change set.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm going to do now, basically, once I've done that, I've done my editing, and I'm where I want to be. I just go ahead and save my edits here from this edit session, and I'm going to open our toolbox back up, and then there's an upload OSM data tool in here. So I run this guy, and basically during my edit session, all my edits are written to a revision table, so everything is queued up in there. And I'm going to browse out to that revision table, and that was created at the same time I did that download. So I'm going to go grab my OSM revision table here. And of course I get a chance here to put some comments in here. So we'll say the map. Do that, and then ask me for my my OSM username and password here. So why are we getting this up here? Oops. Sorry about that, guys. My typing skills aren't what they once were. So I just want to double check this here. Oh, sorry. Just gotta stop my editing. So should be good to go now. Just make sure that's stopped. Yep. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and upload this. Typed my password wrong. Crash. Sorry about that, guys. I did that in the dry run too. Like I said, my typing isn't what it once was. I think it was probably because I was up at 3 o'clock this morning for the ride down. So let's try this again real quick. Let's do this. Should make my passwords easier, huh? So if anyone wants to hop on and fix that, the tab doesn't work right there. Okay, try this one more. So this usually only takes a full, handful of seconds. Obviously depends on the amount of edits you do, and I found that it's really good and refreshing, and seeing those change sets that get up there. So we should be able to take a look at it in just a handful of minutes here.
So while it's loading so we're showing this in desktop. Our mobile team is looking at potentially building mobile editors for OSM into our ArcGIS mobile stack.
And just so you know, another bit of news, I know I got an email from the guys in Redlands at 4:15 a.m. this morning. So this is the beta 2 version. This is like basically our first release of this editor. And they sent me what they hope is version 1. So hopefully we'll see some of those minor bug fixes. Like I said, the tab working there. I know I sent a lot of comments to them. So at this point, those should be up there. And I'm more than happy to log into an OSM account. We'll see what those look like. But again, I'm going to have to point me to taking a look at some of these things. As I mentioned, I'm not as familiar with OSM as I am ArcGIS Desktop. So let's see. Here. So yeah, there's those right there.
So if you, will the data later show up already? I think you
Fire, anybody want me to jump in?
on the data API.
Let's see. Question, was there?
Question amongst ourselves.
Okay, yeah, cool. So that's basically the long and short. It brings it down. You make your edits and you upload it back in. And like I say, hopefully the idea is just to have one more option for people to edit and upload the data and make changes to OSM. So, yeah, question.
So another weird mismatch between OSM schema and normal GIS stuff. We use the word multi-polygon in a different sense than the GIS world does. So we have the concept of an area being bounded by not even a single polyline, but or a line collection. It's a geometry collection of different lines. How do you, in the case where you would want to edit something that is one of our areas bounded by different lines, how do you deal with that?
That's a great question. I have to admit, I have to plead ignorance at the moment, but I think the way it would come down is as 2 polygons, created by those nodes. But I'm not sure of the specifics, though. I'll tell you what, though, if you give me your contact info, I'll definitely look it up for you, for sure. There's a question over here. Yeah.
Do you have any kind of system where you could do bulk uploads? Like if you have existing data, do you have a way that you could copy and paste that into the new structure?
Yeah, great question. I tested that late yesterday afternoon. What you need to do is I found that you need to do, you could do a copy and paste during an edit session. It's critical that it happens during the edit session because those get written to that revision table. So in theory, you should be able to copy and paste from an existing points layer to a new points layer, and it writes the revision table and then goes up. But I don't know if you've ever used the data loader. I tried that and that didn't work. So it's critical about the editing session. Yeah. So, yep.
What's the response been like from the people who are using this, and who are those people?
Well, I'm a little removed from the development team, so really, I guess what I've read is the same as maybe other folks have read, on the blog response. It seems positive. Folks seem interested in it. I know there's a couple concerns over some of the shortcomings of the beta release, but I think overall it's been very positive because people who use this environment or are accustomed to it want to be able to give to OSM and work in it, but haven't felt comfortable in those other environments and things like that. So I think, generally speaking, it's been positive.
I think there's about 700 downloads at this point, and it's been released for about 2 weeks, I think.
Anybody else? Yeah.
ArcGIS Online base map for OSM, is that available for everybody, or do you have to be an Esri customer to use it?
I think it's available for everybody. Now it's ArcGIS.
Since it's hosted on the OpenStreetMap servers, it's available for everyone.
Yeah, it should be available for everyone. I mean, we have free clients as well that you can use, and so ArcGIS.com is, we're working on new the first release, it came out like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and so we're working on standards-based, so any system can consume those services that are there. It's a little shaky right now in terms of, and we try to get in front of that, but we wanted to have it released with ArcGIS 10, so it'll get better.
So this is that's the symbol. This is ArcGIS.com right here, or was until I launched that new page. Sorry. So you see here it is right here. I'm not logged in or anything like that, and I just did like a search on the page for OpenStreetMap, so you could get it and launch it right in the ArcGIS.com viewer. So yeah, do that.
Well, I know that it's publicly available, but in terms of the license agreement, I know with your other base maps, you've got to be a client, have bought ArcGIS server to actually use it for delivery to the public.
I saw an email on OpenStreetMap. I think we
Good.
are following the license agreements with OpenStreetMap, so it's.
Okay.
Yep.
What was the number of nodes that you said you can download at a time?
50,000 was the limit I ran into.
That's an OSM.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. I didn't know for being slightly.
So, could you actually tile data if you wanted to download nodes?
I did that for like an internal project. That's what I did. I did some of that, but I think the problem is if you I created like a quick map grid and did some downloads like that and aggregated it, but you got to be real careful to run into duplication and things like that.
The better thing to do is there's extracts of the data available. You can download the whole planet, you can download a state. It's a lot nicer to the servers. If you're interested, there's people who could definitely speak more to that.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'd be interested in learning about that too.
So actually, this issue is getting to a sort of a deeper point, which I want to touch on, which is, it seems like the kind of consumer who would be interested in this product would be a GIS professional who doesn't have a lot of experience with OpenStreetMap and the OpenStreetMap tools, and doesn't know things like, OpenStreetMap has a limit of 50,000 objects for a download. And that's for a reason, for example, and that there would be an inclination by those customers to have ArcGIS work around them, right, by just downloading making lots of requests and not respecting some of those purposeful limitations, not only for download, but then also for upload. And I'm curious to know what now this is an impossible question, but what is the position of your company and this product in relation to handling the workflow of the community? There's definitely a disconnect between those two groups, and how do you see this product fitting in there?
I think we're going to try not to put any. We're opening up this code for people to do what they want with it, and we're not going to limit the users out there to develop against what we've built. We'll try to. We can't force our customers to not build those, workarounds and stuff that you might be talking about. We're not locking down the tool, is what I'm trying to say.
But so basically, and I'm going to, but you're separating them. So you're separating them from the OpenStreetMap environment, right? You're protecting them. You're shielding them from the normal OSM toolset. And I'm using a little bit charged words on purpose, right? But you're separating them so that they don't have to deal with the OSM tools, but then you're not also building in some of the structure that OSM keeps for its workflow. So you're separating them from the OSM systems, but also the OSM workflow and culture. And that's a bit concerning to those people who have to maintain the data and the systems.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say we're separating it. At least from my perspective, I don't want to speak for all the development team and everybody else, but I would say from my perspective, the idea is we're just trying to offer another alternative to some of the existing editors that are out there, and there are those people who, yeah, you're probably right in the characterization that they are GIS professionals. They are, that sort of mold, but give them another opportunity to be able to edit there. But I think the development team definitely takes very seriously some of those limitations. Like I say, I couldn't download some of those things, and I can't upload. I know there's like a 2,000 node upload limitation. We can't do that. The tools will fail. They say, hey, we can't do that. So I think they're definitely trying to respect. I think it's definitely trying to be an alternative. It's not trying to, break apart or anything of that nature. So, anybody else? Cool. Thank you.